I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, the Lifepreneur podcast. I'm a hyperachiever turned lifepreneur, and after a decade of coaching ambitious leaders, I'm convinced we are far closer than we realize to what we deeply desire, and it's a willingness to do differently that can change everything. This podcast is for the everyday leader ambitious for a rich, out-of-the-box life. This is your weekly nudge and reminder to take a risk to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. Hey, Differently listeners, it's the end of the year. It's the last episode of the year. And it's the time of year that maybe you're standing in this year, peering over at the next, imagining what the next year is going to bring. And maybe there are some changes that you intentionally want to bring to this next year. Our desire to bring about change in our life is often followed by a parade of feelings. And if we aren't prepared, they can convince us that it's just better to stay put and that the risk is too real and too great. In the event that you're grappling or on the fence about something you might want to change in this next year, this episode and short pep talk is for you. May it be the little nudge that you need to go all in. Dear you, I know what it feels like to stand at the precipice of a big life change and to long for the courage to make that change. I've been there before many times, and the courage to make important change in your life is not for the faint of heart. I understand the swirling confusion about what to do next and the wondering if it'll be worth the effort and the questioning of, can I really do it? And the paralysis that you sometimes feel when you imagine what others are going to think. I know what it feels like to decide to make a change and to take steps in that direction and then to think, holy crap, what am I doing? Am I crazy? And feel like you want to run for the hills. I know what it feels like to start doing things differently and feel the responses of others and the anticipation of their judgment, which can send you into a spiral of judging yourself and second-guessing everything. I say that I know mostly because when I've been in those places, I wanted to know that I wasn't alone. I wanted someone else to say, I know what that's like. And it's normal that you feel this way. And it's actually to be expected anytime you're doing something important in your life. And I wanted someone to say, you're not crazy. I wanted that help to combat those voices in my head that don't have my best interest and often cause me to shrink and run away from what I know in my heart to be true. The courage to change your life starts with really understanding that the old ways of doing things just aren't working anymore. And you have to get to that place where you really get that doing the same thing is just going to produce the same results. If you're in that place right now, knowing that something in your life just isn't working and it's really, really time to interrupt that, I acknowledge you because while it's uncomfortable, this is such an important part of the process and exactly where you want to be to make an interruption. And I want to remind you that it is possible to live a life and create a life every day that doesn't have you feeling like you're on the hamster wheel of survival. And now I challenge you. I challenge you to start confronting every little thought that tells you you can't or won't. I challenge you to get quiet and listen closely beyond all the negative noise. I challenge you to start connecting with other people who are up to similar things, who are going to support you and walk through this with you. I challenge you to just do one thing differently. Starting with one little thing, what would bring you the most joy, give you the most energy, as opposed to starting with the really hard thing that feels like a complete drag. I was recently reminded by a client that one little step, whether it's enrolling in a class or showing up to a writing class, can put wind in your sails. Your life wasn't meant to be lived on the sidelines. You're meant for the court. And this doesn't have to be a long list of goals for this next year. It might be one habit that if you changed would ripple to everything. The courage to change your life isn't going to come to you in one fell swoop and then you'll just be ready to go. The courage to change your life is cultivated one piece at a time. So ask yourself, what can you do right now? What tiny step can you take today that creates momentum in the direction you want to go? Quit pretending not to know what that is. You know what it is and what you deeply desire for your life. Say it out loud and make one step quick before the year comes to a close. This momentum will propel you with a spring in your step for the year to come. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.